grenfellactiongroup.wordpress.com, and you will see clearly that local residents have complained to their landlord, KCTMO, and to the local borough, the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, which happens to be not one of the richest boroughs in London, but one of the richest places in the entire world. Because they're from this side of the borough, not Holland Park, not Upperton Hill, not High Street Kensington, not Harrods, not Kensington Palace Gardens. They were ignored. They were ignored. In fact, they were told they were complaining for no reason. They complained very specifically, as you'll see on that blog, about the horrendous Victorian fire safety in this building. Clay was put up on the building to make it look nice and pretty for the rich apartments opposite and for people driving to Westfield on this motorway above you here. Yet they didn't put sprinklers inside. Yet they didn't put an adequate fire alarm system. New gas pipes were fitted, as you'll see if you look at any of the early footage from when the fire first started. You will see that it was all up one side of the building, where all of the residents tell me A was the exit and B was brand new gas pipes. Horrendous conditions. We don't know how many people have lost their lives yet, and as far as I'm concerned, and I will say it repeatedly, this is massive manslaughter by negligence. This will never happen in any part of the wealthy city of London. There's an overwhelmingly poor multicultural community that is well aware that the local council and the wealthy people in this area want them gone. Yeah, there's been plans like all across London to gentrify this area. It's a very wealthy piece of real estate we're sitting on right here, and they want this eyesore of all these poor people to be gone. They want to move them to Newcastle or Birmingham or anywhere else that they're moving the rest of the people in London. We're not going to have it.
And there's been sort of reports about ministers sitting on reports warning of this kind of danger and things. Do you think, what needs to be done in the next couple of weeks and months to hold people to account for this?
I repeat, if people check out grenfellactiongroup.wordpress.com, you will see all of the evidence of repeated complaints, repeated ignorance. Even on my Twitter, I tweeted a letter from the council in one of the wealthiest parts of England. There are some very powerful people who are culpable for this, who don't think they're going to have to pay. But as far as I'm concerned, not only do people need to be paid out compensation, people need to go to prison. Yeah, that's what needs to happen. People need to go to prison. And if that happened to any rich people, and it was our fault from over this side of the way, right, there would be people in prison, no question. Yeah? So this is not a case of, just negligent, pay a few people out, hush, hush, hush. This is systemic corruption, systemic negligence. If we look at the entire defunding of all the local youth centres, the entire cuts to local services, to the fire service, to NHS, etc., this is reflective of the larger greed, selfishness of austerity. Yeah, of neoliberalism. This is not one isolated incident. This is just a poster child of all of the neglectful policies that the governments of this country have pursued and the ruling elites actually of the world have pursued. This is the kind of thing that people expect with the greatest of respect, and I don't mean this in any disrespect to Bangladesh, but when we hear about the factories that sweat working in Bangladesh lapsing, this is the kind of thing people say, Bangladesh, don't worry about. We expect it to happen over there. Now it's happening here in the middle of central London that are not rich.
And what do you think it says that it has taken this, dying a catastrophic event before anyone to even turn their head and notice?
This is not the first time. There was a fire in this building 30 years ago when people were evacuated. There was the New Cross fire in 1981, the suspected arson attack where 14 teenagers burned to death. The government never even acknowledged it happened. This is not the first time this has happened to poor people in this country. There was Hillsborough, up in Liverpool, where people died, and the newspapers the next day, because Liverpool is an overwhelmingly working class city, said people were robbing the bodies of the dead, which turned out to be obviously complete nonsense. To this day, big up to our brothers and sisters in Liverpool, they don't buy the Sun newspaper for this reason. That's what I'm saying. This is not an isolated incident, and unless there is systemic change, these kinds of things will continue to happen. And then, when the city, as it has done many times before, as it may do again, people will say, what's wrong with these crazy poor people? Who knows why they're angry? This is why they're angry. How many people have lost their families today? How many people literally have dead children? Yeah? Dead parents in this building. We don't even have a clue how many people are dead yet. So it hasn't taken for this kind of thing to happen for something to change. There are people who are just looking right now for a way to cover this up, for a way to make this go away, for a way to say, it's only a few poor people, don't worry about it. In fact, there are people who've probably come around today, I saw a lot of suits around today, rubbing their hands together. Ooh, sell-off. Destroy the building, regeneration. I saw them come around today. With the greatest of respect, I'm not dissing you, but to hounding all the residents, we said to them, go and talk to them suits. Who are they? We never see them around here. Who are they? I didn't see hounding those people. So let's be clear, within the logic of disaster capitalism, there are people who are looking at this as an opportunity, not as a disaster. Yeah, and we see this globally. Yeah, it just happens to be happening in the middle of one of the richest cities in the world, so it's global news. The truth is, it's weird for us, because many of us, I don't actually live on this estate, but I live in the local area, many of us have families. in Jamaica or Bangladesh or Pakistan or India or places where this stuff is supposed to happen but never makes the news. Now it's in the middle of one of the richest cities in the world, but it just so happens a lot of the people that live here have family in those areas as well. We're going to see it. The whole world news is going to complete disdain for people that don't have money. The failures of neoliberal capitalism, the failures of austerity, and it's really interesting that it's happened in the wake of all of the political tones and climates that have emerged in Britain in recent years. The richest borough, 1,400 empty homes, cannot continue to be so divided. It's people feeling quite strong, and I'm sure that off the back of that strength, people will still have the strength to resist. But I want to say one other thing. I really want to big up all of the local youth centres. Yeah, Harrow Club, Maxilla, Tabernacle, yeah? All of those, yes, there's emergency accommodation, all of these places. These places that have had their funding cut, yeah, because of austerity, these were the first places to respond. These places had their doors open. The one beautiful thing to come out of this, and I don't want to say that it's beautiful to come out of it, but more that it's beautiful to see everyone, in a neighbourhood that is usually, it only gets in the press when someone gets stabbed around here, right? And that isn't even as often as the press would like to make out. Everyone has come together. I saw 13-year-olds who took their pocket money and went to the pizza shop, bought pizzas, coming around and offering me a grown adult food. Yeah, the side of the neighbourhood that you'll never see. Because no one cares about poor people unless they're dying in fire or unless they're stabbing one another. But when they're doing normal, everyday, beautiful things that I see people in this community do all the time, that's not newsworthy. And all I've seen out here, I haven't seen the institutions down here. Look around you. I can't see no big institutions. I can see regular people around doing for one another. Every ethnic background, every age group, every religion. Yeah, that's what I can see in this community. It's a beautiful community. When our idiot politicians say multiculturalism has failed, maybe in their world, not in our world, look. You can see, I mean you can't see, but if you could see the people stood here, you have almost every ethnicity you can imagine stood right in front of you. Multiculturalism hasn't failed, it's failed for them people, because they don't care about no one. So like I said, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a talk of appeasement, it's not a talk, it's a talk of punishment. Somebody needs to go to prison. Simple as that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. No.
Ah, you don't have to clap. You don't have to clap.
Very good. Very good. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah.